The new normal is quite different. It feels very foreign, it also feels quite stressful. It feels like there's a lot of stimuli that's happening all around me. Everybody has their own definition of success, and we're going to listen to a variety of sharings about success during this show so that you can create your own version. But first, I'm going to have to go home to connect with our guests. And why am I not doing it outside? Well, can't you hear all the noise that's happening around? Oh, it's just too many things going on.
Thanh Bùi is going to be the first guest in this final episode. The millennials might still remember some of his hit songs like My Cool Vietnam or Where Do We Go? Đừng quay bước đi. Thanh Bùi was born in Adelaide, Australia, in a family of Vietnamese parents who have settled in Australia since 1982. He grew up in Australia and is one of the most successful overseas Vietnamese singers ever.
There's an emotion between a man and a woman.
You hesitate, all your mistakes, stop wasting my time.
And Thanh Bùi officially returned to Vietnam. He is now the chairman of On Point, a company specializing in managing brands in education, art, culture, and media.
Everybody look to the left. Everybody look to the right. Can you feel that? Yeah, we're paying with love tonight.
That's it.
It's not about the money.
In this talk, he's gonna share about his love with music, his philosophy in education, and his definition of success. Can't wait to meet him right now.
IFO audience, welcome back to the show today. And in this final episode, we have a very special guest. You've probably seen who the guest is in the clip just now, but some of the things that you might not know, Thanh Bùi, you've probably heard his songs, you've probably played his songs on YouTube or inside your iPod. Actually, iPods no longer exist, so on YouTube and in all of your speakers. But Thanh Bùi is also the chairman of On Point. He's actively involved in education, arts, culture, and media, and he's working to really bring all of these wonderful human skills to the Vietnamese public. So anh Thanh Bùi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Phoebe. Thank you for having me on the show, and appreciate the kind words to begin this interview.
And a lot of people know you as an artist, and maybe know you as a business person. But would you prefer to be called an educator, a business person, an artist, or a father?
I prefer to be called whatever you want to call me. I mean, as a public person, there are certain things you can't control, and I think the most important thing is just to. I'd love to break stereotypes and to not be pigeonholed into any one role, I think. And I think it's so important that, particularly in sort of a more traditional society like Vietnam, that we don't put labels on everybody. I mean, why can't you be an artist and an entrepreneur and a father and an educator and just whatever you want to be? So I think ultimately I am who I am, and I'm very comfortable with that. And I think to different people, I'm a different title. So I leave it up to everybody, but I do hope that people consider myself to be someone who's just a supporter of the arts, a supporter of education, and someone who really wants to fight for the next generation of Vietnamese kids.
Now, has this cause always been clear to you, or was it something in the making as you progress on through life?
Yeah, I know that there's always been this urge for education, this urge and want for the arts, because how much is it nurture and how much is it nature? And I can remember throughout my life that I've always had that opportunity to teach other kids in the class, sort of be like a big brother to my fellow friends and let's say colleagues in school. And just throughout my teenage years, teaching was something that I always was very passionate about. I think once you get comfortable with your achievements and you reach a certain level, I mean, you have a rethink about it, you know. And at this stage in my life, I've been so fortunate to have sort of lived 5 lives, and been around the world a dozen times, and I feel that now that I sit as a 38-year-old, I just realise that everything that I've experienced has allowed me to be in this moment and to be doing the work that I'm doing. So I just feel it's been a wonderful journey, and I know that tomorrow is an unknown, and I love the fact that it's an unknown. I don't know where tomorrow is going to lead me or in another year's time, but at least I know the direction that I'm heading in, and I'm feeling very comfortable about that.
I'm seeing something behind you, Anh Thanh Bùi. It says, instead of more like everyone else, and then there's something above it that says something, children become like something. Can you tell us more about that? Yeah,
well, the quote, let me read it, is art has a role in education of helping children become more like themselves instead of more like everyone else. And it's I'm sitting in my office at the moment, and I love that quote, and that quote inspires me every day. I mean, I think for us, my whole philosophy of why the arts is so important, why holistic education is so important, is that we can find our sense of identity. And my hope is that for Vietnamese kids, that they don't have to follow the path of their parents, or what the parents want them to do. I really hope that they can become their own versions, and that they can be the best versions of themselves.
For you, you know, like how did that love for the arts really develop? Is it because of Australia? Is it because, you know, you were born in your blood as a Vietnamese person? Like what generated that?
I think that's a great question. I mean, the way I see the arts is no longer the arts. I see it as creative education. And it should be about music. It should be about performing arts, about film, about visual arts. And I think we should see every art form as just as important as each other. And that, you know, it depends on the human being. Some people love, you know, visual arts. Some people are more sort of go towards performing arts, and some people love music more. It all depends on the individual. If you don't know what you don't know, and you can only know what you know. And I was so fortunate to be brought up in an environment that allowed me to experiment and to try new things. Even though I could have sucked at it or be completely horrible at it, but at least I was given a chance to know, hey, Tan, that's not for you. Because I tried violin, and the violin sounded like a screeching cat. And I thought, you know what? I don't think violin's for me. But I had that opportunity. And I think ultimately it's the opportunity, the environment, your teachers and your parents. And what I was fortunate was that I was given the chance to experiment, to explore, and I was told that no subject is more important than another subject. I was taught from an early age that music is art, art is mathematics, mathematics is art, art is science. I was taught from such a young age about being multidisciplinary, but seeing connections in all subjects, not just becoming siloed in a subject, in a particular subject. Through the arts, I was able to discover the intersection with science. But more importantly, what it did was it got me to understand how to look from within. And when you play a piece of music, once you've mastered the theory and the technical side of it, you forget everything and you play from your heart. You play from your experiences, because your emotions become your music, and your music becomes your emotions. And all that is nothing more than a mirror reflection of your life and of your own life experiences.
Thank you for sharing. Australia is also famous for many, many art schools and institutes. You opened several schools in Australia, I believe, before you opened your schools in Vietnam. How were those experiences different?
I think in Australia, I think it's much easier because there's very little convincing to parents the importance of the arts and how important it is to have these enriched programs for kids to get into the top schools in Australia. I mean, I went to St Kevin's College in Melbourne, which is an APS school, one of the top schools over there, and then I had the amazing opportunity to go to Melbourne High School, which is one of the toughest schools to get into. And I know that I couldn't have gone into those schools if I didn't have my music, if I didn't have the arts, sports to be part of the portfolio. And so, there's very little convincing, and ultimately it's just about having a product that fits the market. And I was very lucky to have worked with a lot of the professionals, and I saw in Australia at the time I was still there was this gap between education and industry. And as an education guy and an industry guy, the thing was to find the intersection so that kids could be well informed of how to get into the industry. And so coming back to Vietnam, I think the biggest hurdle for us is to share with parents the importance of the arts, the importance of a holistic education, the importance of sports, and not just having good scores in math. It's hard because, like Howard Gardner would share, changing mindsets are very difficult. And you've got to work in a very multidisciplinary way to be able to get a message out there that portrays a product in the right light, but it can still be touched, And because traditionally the arts and sports and what we call extracurricular, Vietnamese people call it extracurricular. And the moment you call it extra, it means that it's extra, which means that if anything goes wrong, or if there's COVID, or if the kids get too busy with other stuff, the arts and the sports and all the extra stuff go first. So it's about relabeling things. We call it enrichment programs, because what it does is that it enriches the portfolio of the child, it enriches the soul of the child, it enriches the personality of the child. And I think if we can convince parents that the arts and the enrichment programs are the things that will build the identity of the child, which then becomes their unique selling point, then I think we've got a better chance. And so I think changing mindsets, and then you've got the generations. You've got the older generation, you've got the new generation coming through. Kids today are so tech savvy, they see so much news and information from the internet. I think it's difficult for parents and children to connect together. And when you have that kind of disconnection within the family, I think that's how, first of all, that's how issues arise. And secondly, that's where when you have a mismatch of mindsets, it's very, very difficult to have alignment.
Wow, Anh Thanh Bui, that was beautiful, that was powerful, and so utterly poetic at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seasons of love.
IFO audience, in talk number 2, we're going to talk about love and feel, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. And if you want to go grab a cup of coffee and grab a cup of tea, listen to some music like Love and Feel, and feel free to do that as you listen to our talk. So Anh Thanh Bui, you took part in the Australian Idol competition, and this we knew of you. First time through that competition. Do you remember this time?
I remember like it was yesterday, but it seems, oh my goodness, like a lifetime ago. Yes, I remember it. It was the biggest learning curve because it was the first time that I stepped out as a solo artist. Because prior to that, I'd been signed to Universal Music and EMI, and back then, released 2 albums through the boy band North. I'd always wanted to be a solo artist, but I never had the courage. I was too scared and too afraid. So at 25, I'd literally sort of achieved everything that I ever wanted to achieve by that time. And I thought to myself, well, what's the next step? And my mother said to me all the time, well, why don't you try for Australian Idol? And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. No, absolutely not. I don't want to bare my soul on national TV, man. I don't want to do that. It's too hard. But you know what? I summoned the courage and I went, okay, let's do this. And that year, I remember, was 32,000 contestants, and I came 8th. And it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, because I learned how to be vulnerable, and I learned how to accept criticism. I learned that as an artist, you have to be so honest and so true to yourself so that the public can feel you. And through that competition, it made me realise what being a real artist was. And it's about bearing your soul and actually being so comfortable about that, and learning how to cope and to understand that being judged is just a part of life. You can't control it, so don't worry about it. And once I got comfortable with that, that's when I think my career really started to open up. So I would say that Australian Idol was my first opportunity to truly understand what it meant to be an artist. And then secondly, it was the first time in my life that I connected with the Vietnamese community.
Now, we knew a lot of your songs, 13, 14 years ago, 15 years ago. Love Come With You and I, Through My Eyes, A Little Love. Right? Did love always encompass and embrace your life?
Yeah, I think I'm a really positive person, and I think that I have a lot of love to give and a lot of love to receive, you know. And I just feel that ultimately, when you die and when you look at life back and you're on your deathbed, you just want to know that your loved ones are around you, and you just want to know that they're going to be okay, because they are the ones that are going to miss you the most. They are the ones that would die for you. And I think I've been really lucky in my life that I don't have a lot of friends, but I have some incredible friends around me that would literally die for me. And I think if you can, the more I got comfortable with myself and just, self-love, and I know it may sound cliche, but when you get comfortable and you start to love yourself more and more every day, and accept yourself and all your flaws and your weaknesses and all that kind of stuff, I think what you're able to do is share that positivity and love for everybody else. And I think ultimately, love is what drives us. Love is why we live. Love is the defining factor of whether we're happy or unhappy. It's love. That's what humans, that's what makes us human.
That was, again, another powerful and exceptionally touching and inspiring story, as well as sharing. I appreciate you answering that question. Thanks so much. Do you miss singing, and do you miss performing, a lot at all? To the public, maybe Thanh Bui is not as active, but actually internally you're very, very active, doing all of these, projects and trying to work on a bigger goal to inspire via education and to change the way people think about the arts in Vietnam, right? And hence you're performing less. Do you miss performing at all?
I've been asked that question a little bit over the past couple of months, and I'd say this. Every time I'm doing an interview, every time I meet a new person, every time I'm speaking to the board, every time I meet a new partner, I'm performing. Life is a performance. So I think for me, it's never been about being off stage. The moment I step outside the door of my house, I'm on stage. And to have that kind of mindset, I think has really helped me just to always be as in the moment as possible, and to prepare as best as possible to be the best version of myself. So I think it's just a different way of performing, and I think performing music specifically is something which I will get back to, and it's a part of my DNA. I can't run away from it. I'm proud of it. I think I'm ready soon to come back with something, and it will be a different thing. It will be a more mature version of what it was before, and I continue to hope to through the different ways that I perform.
What are some of your 3 tips for our young audience to allow them to be a better person?
The first point I'd say is, in such a fast-changing world, you got to think that the impossible can be possible by doing something very simple called ABCD. Always be connecting the dots. ABCD. Nothing is really completely different or completely new. It's just a different combination of certain things to create something different. And if you can just open your mind and to connect the different dots and to always ask questions of why and why not. Don't accept the status quo. Remember that you are unique, you are different. The whole world will not accept you, that's a given. So chill out, yo, chill out. Chill out and just understand that problems are normal, obstacles are normal, and the moment that you're able to realize that they are just obstacles, little bumps along the way for you to become a better version of yourself. And then the other thing is, never forget who you are, never forget where you come from. You are not above anybody else. We're all equal. And the way I judge somebody is how they treat someone who is below them from a societal perspective. That's how I treat them. That's how I judge somebody. We're all normal. We're all the same. Be humble and keep learning. Something like that.
And Thanh Bùi, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I really appreciate it. And I think, the talk today is going to go into the minds and the memories and the inspiration of a lot of our youths who watch IFO. So we appreciate your time, and we appreciate you giving us a glimpse into your mind and into your thoughts. IFO audience, welcome to the IFO challenge. In this challenge, we're going to basically hum some songs. I'm going to hum some songs, and I think he's going to guess his songs. I think he's going to get it 100% correct, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of these songs. So the challenge, I think, is more for me to be able to hum some of these songs.
Good luck.
All right. Okay, so first song.
Huh?
Oh, okay. I think I know what I think I know what you're thinking. Yeah, that one. There we go.
And what's the name of the song?
It's called, oh my goodness, I can't remember. Oh my goodness. I think we're in trouble now. That's what it's called. Yeah. In trouble. In trouble. That's what it's called.
Bad Tôi Đã You.
Yes! That's the one. You read my mind, Phoebe. Like, totally that's the one.
I absolutely did. Thank you for allowing me to read your
That's
mind.
okay. Cool, man. Go for it.
All right. Next one. Next up.
Cho ta thao thức đêm dài, đưa nhau qua cơn mộng buồn mà em càng thêm cách xa.
Let's do it now. That's not one. I'm sorry. Bow bow. Oh my god. I feel horrible. I'm sorry. This challenge will be actually more fun with the audience because I'm actually horrible at remembering my lyrics and the names of my songs. I actually find it really difficult to remember.
Two more.
All right. The One Who Takes It All!
Yes!
Yay! Woo!
Yes! All right, last one. This one's going to be tough for me, but I think it won't be tough for the audience.
You've been good. You've been great. Yeah? 10 out of 10, man.
Give me... Thank you.
10 out of 10.
2 seconds.
Go for it, no worries. I never knew one of my songs sounded like that, but this is news to me.
This is not your song. This is actually... This is not performed by you.
Ah, okay. So it's another song. It's not one of my compositions. Is that correct?
I believe it is not your composition, but you were involved in this.
Okay. I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea.
I never knew one of my songs sounded like that.
Shall I play it for you?
Yes, please. Oh! Yes. I wrote that. So I wrote that's BTS Danger.
Xin chào các bạn, chúng tôi là
BTS. Và tôi là Thanh Boy.
Right, we want to give you a chance to be the part of our new song, collaboration with BTS and Tanboy by performing and translating the chorus to Vietnamese.
171.3 million views.
Oh, man.
That's
wow.
Beautiful. Wow. Well, I did not know that you wrote this song.
Oh, yeah. That was my last song I wrote, and it was the first song off their international album that made them big. So I feel very privileged to be part of BTS history. So I met them at the Grammy Awards a few years ago, and still the same, very humble. And I was sitting about 10 rows from where they were, and during the break I came down and they're sitting with Taylor Swift and whoever, and I couldn't get through because of the VVVIP.
Anh Thanh Bùi, you've been a wonderful guest. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your presence in our show today. Have a great day, and we hope to have you back on the show sometime in the future.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Phoebe. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Cheers, guys.
iPhone audience, we have a lot more coming up in this episode. We're going to meet another Australian who's really been able to inspire others with her story, with her books, as well as a lot of her initiatives. So we're going to be right back. Stay tuned and stick around.
Growing up, I was always the kid who questioned everything.
I was always interested in health and wellness.
Getting my MBA in Australia completely changed my life. I enjoyed learning new ways of thinking.
I learned so much about beauty and good design.
My studies taught me to be independent and to appreciate international perspectives.
I loved it. The campus life, the friends.
It gave me the confidence to chase my dreams.
Inspired by the beauty products I had seen, I started Sociola, now Indonesia's #1 beauty platform.
I love what I do now. My team and I help save lives on the road.
I love my job being at the forefront of technology.
And now I'm excited to be back in Australia to take on a new role.
And now it's time to discover your brilliant future self.
You can start your Australian education today
from wherever you are.
From wherever you are.
From wherever you are.
From wherever you are. Cát Thảo Nguyễn is Managing Director of Global Ready LLC, Lumina Learning Partner, assisting organizations and individuals to lead inclusively in globalized world Kat Thao was the first Asian Australian to be the Australian Youth Representative to the United Nations General Assembly in 2018. She is the first person from Vietnam to be certified by the Cultural Intelligence Center, USA, to support her cultural intelligence advisory services. To hear her inspiring story and insightful view about life, don't leave the screen. We're gonna meet Kat Thao right now.
IFO audience, I'm very excited to see you every week. This time we have a wonderful, wonderful guest, and we've been talking, quite significantly for this episode already, but there's another guest that is proudly made in Vietnam that, it's really, really interesting. I really wanted you guys to hear her story and also her definition of success. So, Kat Thao, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. It's such a fantastic honor to be talking to you and also sharing a bit about my story with your audience.
Well, for the audiences that are still wondering what she does, she has worked in corporate law, she has worked in private equity, now she's in international education. She's been around the world and she's involved in a number of social initiatives here in Vietnam as well as in Australia. So a lot of things to talk about, but let's kind of like condense it all into a couple of identity questions. So would you how would you describe yourself? What kind of a person or profession, if it's relevant, would you describe yourself in?
I would describe myself as a Vietnamese Australian woman. And I think those three aspects are very important to my identity. So I have been involved in corporate law, in private equity investments, in international education, as you said, but also in some non-profit areas as a board chair of two non-profits. And I've also been on the boards of some joint venture companies in Asia as well. And I found where I can make the most impact is in leadership development. And I'm working with CEO level people and leaders from around the world, including in Vietnam as well, on something I call relearning being human. And often in leadership, we become so transactionary, we become so focused on management that we forget that our people are humans and we forget our own needs as a human being, and how do we connect with each other as a human so that we can allow our organizations and our people to thrive.
One of the things that our team members like to talk about are quotes from different books, right? And our producers have actually quoted a quote from Lily Hayslip, which basically says, we see ourselves in the middle of heaven and earth, for you, your journey started out in a very, very interesting way. How did that journey affect who you are now and the kind of decisions that you make?
Wow, that's a big question, a very big question. So, for my family, we are from Tây Ninh province in Vietnam. And then we got to Australia and I grew up and spent most of my life there until coming to Vietnam to live in 2007. My family is Vietnamese, but then, I was born in a land, Thailand, and then I grew up in Australia. So essentially the formation of three different countries and this experience of deep hardship and struggle. I think what I have learnt is through my parents is the meaning of courage. I've learnt what the meaning of integrity is. And I watched my parents struggle, but they never made choices that were unethical. So I learned courage, I learned integrity, I learned also deep compassion. And I saw that even in our struggle, my parents would be helping other people. And that a life that is worth living is a life that is meaningful. And, you know, there's a psychologist that came up with, you know, 3 types of happiness. The first happiness is pleasurable. So you seek pleasure, you know, new food experiences, new travel experiences, and all of these experiences around your senses. And then that happiness is sort of short-lived. The second type of happiness is a happiness where you have an engaged life. And the engaged life is using all of the skills and gifts, natural gifts that you have towards a purpose. So if you're in a job or work where you're using most of your skills that come naturally to you, you feel really engaged. But also the happiness there is not really long-lasting either. And then the third level of happiness is a meaningful life. And the meaningful life is you use your skills, your education, your life experiences in service, where you can contribute to a better society and to help the environment around you. And that is actually leading to long-term happiness and fulfillment. So, you know, how I make decisions in my life is based on what gives my life meaning, and not to be afraid of making hard decisions, but always maintaining integrity and not being afraid to live my parents' values of courage and resilience.
Would you describe yourself as fearless? You know, if somebody were to just look at you on paper, it seems fearless. Would you describe yourself as fearless as a person?
You're right. You're right when you said if you look at me on paper. I guess I'll tell you a story where you would probably think, wow, that's pretty fearless. So when I finished high school, I was, you know, 17, 18, and I needed money, and I didn't start university yet, but I was working. My family was very poor, right? So I was working in many different jobs. I was working in a factory, and in that place, I was the only female, you know, in the factory. Also, I became a pizza delivery driver. So I worked for Pizza Hut. And so I would go by myself as a female driver to deliver the pizzas. And in areas where in a apartment block, there were no lights. All the lights were broken. So I had to crawl on the staircase with the pizza. And if I put my hand in front of my face, I could not see my hand. And so I would have to go to each door and feel number 5. Nope. And then go, crawl, then number 6, you know, keep going. And then years later, I found myself being the first Australian youth representative to the United Nations General Assembly, New York City, where I was the first person of Asian background to represent Australia at the UN in that role. And when I left, the State Department, the Foreign Affairs Department, gave me an apartment in New York to live. And when I left, I think I had like $20. You know, I was doing this big role, but I had no money and I was going by myself. I don't know whether I would describe myself as fearless. I think I would maybe describe myself as someone very comfortable with uncomfortable situations.
Well, Ka Tao, that was so wonderful, and thank you for sharing all of these stories. So IVO audience, we're going to take a short break, and after the break, we're going to come back and talk to Ka Tao's journey to success and how she views success. We'll be right back.
Seasons of love.
Welcome back to the show. So, Ka Tao, you know, when you think about success, right? Is it a term that brings you a lot of joy to talk about, or does it bring you a lot of stress to talk about?
I think for me, it has been an evolving definition, an evolving concept. At times when I was younger, I think it did bring me stress. Yeah, I think it did bring me stress. Now it brings me joy. So Phoebe, you mentioned the 2 words, does it bring me stress or does it bring me joy? It did bring me stress, and it brought me stress when I had other people's definition of success as my own definition. And I think, you know, success, it's often with conventional measures that creates so much pressure for people. And what I believe is that every single human on this earth is here for a purpose and not here for success. They have their role to play, and no one else can play it. Right? Elon Musk is only Elon Musk. You cannot be Elon Musk. Okay? You cannot be Bill Gates. You cannot be Steve Jobs, because that is already taken. Okay? That's already taken by them. You can only be you. And so the journey of becoming you, that is the journey of becoming closer to myself, my authentic self. And what is it that I need to express in the world? Am I a storyteller? Am I, you know, like, what is that essence? And how does it combine with a set of values that are not negotiable to you? So that, you know, then whatever job that you do, the job is not your purpose. It's only a vehicle, a mode or a channel for you to express your purpose. And that can change over time.
One of the things that we can see right now is you do work with a number of you know, high-ranking executives to also help them in this journey, right? Is helping other people to find their purpose difficult?
It can be difficult if people don't have a few things in place. The first is they need to have an open mind. So they need to be able to have an open mind to ask the questions of themselves. So what I do is I just provide the mirror. But are you willing to look in and to look for a long time? Not many people are willing to do that. It's easier to just copy someone else's definition of success and then sort of go to work and be unhappy and then complain and then, you know, blah, 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 right? And then you have to have an open heart. You have to be able to let feelings that are uncomfortable, but also different feelings come into to your heart. You have to open that up. And sometimes it's very painful to open up your heart. And then you have to have an open will, which is the action part. You have to be willing to do things differently, to try things differently with me, for example. So unless those things are in place, people won't be able to find their purpose and lasting happiness. But where I have found that to be in place, I have seen incredible transformations in people, in leaders. And then as a result of them living more purposefully, they impact their entire organizations and they impact all of their teams and their people. It's quite dramatic and incredible. So yeah, so the answer is it is hard, Phoebe, if those conditions are not in place.
That's very interesting, very, very interesting. And I think this is the first time that we're bringing such a concept to IFO, and it's a very, very, very interesting concept, and we hope to foster more discussions and conversations with our audience. Our audiences are a little younger, but why not start thinking about some of these things? Now, you were formerly the board, you know, you were formerly the director of the Australian Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam, and as well as the National Board Advisor to SBS Australia. How has an Australian community and how has an Australian education really fostered who you are today?
So I spent all of my education in Australia, so all of it, and in Sydney. So I went to, in terms of university, I went to the University of Sydney, Australia's oldest university. And I'm actually doing a doctorate right now and at the University of Technology, Sydney. So it's another New South Wales a university as well. So I'm doing a doctorate there as well. So I continue to learn and to grow. And I think what's really been amazing about Australian education for me is the education has been about the whole self. An example of this is when I was in high school, I was involved in debating. So this is it's a competition with different schools, and you argue a topic and you get together and you go to different schools every week. And one time I had an amazing teacher, and I wasn't really confident. I was doing all these things, but inside I wasn't very confident at all. And he sat me down after school one time in the library, and he said, you know, I believe in you. I know that your parents might not say it, but they're very proud of you. And I have been carrying this card in my wallet for many years. And this card was given to me by someone else who gave it to me at a time when I needed it. And now I'm giving this card to you for you to carry until you can pass it on to someone else who needs it. And on that card, it said, I am and I can. And with God's help, you know. And so he passed this card on to me, this card he had been carrying for many years. And I carried and I kept that card. And this was a school teacher who cared about me as the whole person. And then when I got to university, I also had another teacher like that called Mary Crock, and she was a law professor. And I struggled a lot. I was a very good student at the beginning, but I had so much, you know, self-doubt, and there were times when I just felt I don't think I could finish university. And she helped me. She gave me that belief, and not helping like here's extra tutoring, here's that. She helped me emotionally. And the day that I graduated, she was there and she gave me a big hug. So that's what Australian education has given me, to be able to be well-rounded, to constantly test my ability to learn and to learn more, which is why I've been enrolled in a doctorate. You know, this is what we need, people to constantly open their minds and learn more. So I'm very grateful to Australian education in particular.
Wow. Just to have teachers and then, you know, that whole experience of being able to, with just small gestures, inspiring somebody and helping them to get out of, you know, maybe that dark period or dark hole in which they might be feeling at certain points in time. That is beautiful. I think that's beautiful. So Katao, a lot of our young audiences would be asking us and would be asking you, you know, what are your 3 tips for young people who are hungry for success? Or they probably would be thinking about success more so than purpose at that point, but success and purpose, let's group them together.
Right, okay, sure. So, you know, I would have to say that your job is not the final answer to success or purpose, okay? And don't be afraid to try different things. So you don't think that, okay, if I should choose this one thing now, I have to do it forever and that's it. I can't go back and I can't change. You can change. You can change many times. It's okay. Even if people think, oh, it's changing too much. It's okay to try different things until you find something that you feel is comfortable for you and right for you. I would also say that also think about the meaningful life. I know it might mean like, oh, I'm thinking about success, but you know, happiness actually comes from how can you make your community or the world a better place? And if you want to study something, how do you think you can actually make the world a better place through that choice that you're making? And you can do it with anything. Third thing is you don't have to have the final answer right now. And if you're still unclear about what you're going to do, what you're going to study, that's actually okay, because be open to trying something. And then if you try it and you think, okay, this sounds okay, this doesn't sound okay, this feels okay. Just be open. And even if you're at university and you want to go to university and you choose a degree to study, while you're in that, explore different things as well. Do different things outside of that study if you can, because then that will help you explore different parts of who you are and what you can give to the world.
Well, Gatao, thank you so much for coming by today and sharing some of these stories with our audience. For me, always, when I look at somebody on paper, at first glance, it showcases the kind of interests that they have, right? So for you, it's multivariable interest, definitely a lot of strong community interest, and definitely a lot of the interests in supporting others and in business. Right? So that was kind of what I saw. But the conversations today and the stories today have definitely highlighted another aspect of your personality, your story, and the fact that it's so beautiful and wonderful to have somebody that has come back to Vietnam from a wonderful place like Australia, strong and contributing and making us all happy to kind of learn from that experience. So Gatao, thank you very much.
Hi Phoebe, it's me here, and I mean, wow, what a great season it's been so far. I mean, what really left a deep impression on me is the guests that I got to speak to and you got to speak to. So the guests this season, I mean, what can I say? IFO Nightly Show ultimately is a show about people. It's the guests, the special guests, people that we feature on the show that really makes it special. And this season we were very honored to be joined by just a lot of talents. We have musicians, accomplished musicians, we have businessmen, we have social enterprises, we have just a lot of pioneers in the field of education, which really inspire me to achieve more in my own line of work. And apart from just an A-list cast of guests, we also have really awesome band, the IFO band. I think it's just a really great way to bring English, to package English in a more accessible way and bring it to more viewers. And I think it's very thoughtful of the IFO Nightly Show production crew to kind of weave these extra features into the show and make it more interesting to both first-time viewers and the most loyal fans of the show. So I love this season.
Hi, welcome to our chat box. This is Thao Tâm and Ping Kim.
Yeah, it was the first time we had to film everything from our own room, right?
And I really did not know where the season was taking me because I didn't expect to be able to film an entire season of television show from my my own couch and my bed, and it has been very rewarding. But of course it is not without its trial.
Because after a few seasons of being able to travel back and forth across Vietnam to film, now we had to do everything online. And but surprisingly, it went kind of smooth, and in the end, I'm surprised that everyone turned out to fall in love with the season. So let's talk about our beloved guest. Who did you find most impressive?
I guess my single favorite episode was with Yi Thu Hu from UNDP, and because it was just so awe-inspiring, and she's just such a warm, kind-hearted soul. It was surreal to be able to conduct that meeting online. I absolutely love that season. How about you?
So my guest was a beautiful young girl and an aspiring art curator. Art curator, that is so cool. Like I haven't met anyone like doing that job in real life. So it was really cool to be able to talk to her. And she kind of had a very unique story of upbringing.
So I really hope to bring this attitude of fearless connection into the next season, and hope that you guys will be here when we get back. And we're so excited to see you guys once again on season 8.
Yay! Hey Phoebe! Hi audience! So we are in the same room, me and V, no longer social distancing, no longer doing different role in different space. Yes. So we are here to basically have some reflections of season 7. I think that difference from Tâm and him, we are actually able to go out.
That's right.
And do the interviews. We are not restricted by the COVID. That was very lucky. So how was your experience? You went to
Ninh Bình.
Ninh Bình.
Yeah, that's right. So that was a very amazing trip when knowing more about the environmental protection. Yes, and by an expert. And I first met an kind of green prize winning expert. Really cool. I get to closer to the nature. If you have to say a word to describe your experience in IFO season 7, what would it be?
Season 7, I would say, well, the first word that came up to my head was academic. Because of all cool guest experts in educational field. That's right. So yeah, very academic, very insightful and informative.
Okay, as my turn is inspiring. I think inspiring in the way that we adapt to the new way of production. Unlike everything from chị Phoebe, Thảo Tâm, Kian, and then chị Dương, very inspiring because she's becoming the new segment host, which is a new thing to do, but what is more important is that we're not afraid, just go ahead and do it. And yeah, keep inspiring the audience and bring more heartfelt stories to the audience. Yay! Bye bye!
Seasons of love.
On IFO Nightly Show, we talk extensively about where people find themselves in life, where they are right now, where they have been in terms of their learning journey, and obviously where they're heading in the future, their study destinations. And one of the premier destinations in terms of education is obviously the land down under, is Australia. And we're very honored this season to be sponsored by the Australian government. And we're going to explore the many facets of what Australia has to offer, particularly in terms of education, in terms of trade, cooperation, and bilateral relationships. And joining us right now to talk to us about all these wonderful things is a panel of experts that we have invited, and let's hear from their unique perspectives.
We've had a whole season dedicated to Australia. We've talked about Australian education, bilateral relationships, trade, cooperation, and yet we have not shown you the faces behind this whole project. Let's first connect with Ms. Hung Ngo from Austrade, where she's going to tell us a little bit about the story of how this started.
Hi Phoebe and IFO audience. As a project manager, I feel so fortunate to have experienced directly every stage of the project and having such a golden opportunities to work with colleagues from multiple organizations and partners from states and territories of Australia to Austrade Vietnam and Australia, and also the Australian Embassy in Hanoi. We've been through so much challenges and challenges due to COVID time, but we've learned how to stay resilient and to be innovative and to look forward in partnerships. Our audience, you've been so great, and thank you very much for supporting us. Although this is the last episode of season 7, but stay tuned. We will be back with Shine with Australia.
Thank you, Chi Hung, for your wonderful sharing. It is so great to hear about the journey of the season, from the conceptualization of the ideas for each episode all the way until this final episode. And even though this is the final episode, I wish that the Shine with Australia spirit will still linger with you and will stay with you. And here to talk to us more about it is Kim Wimbush from CSIRO. So what are your thoughts, Kim?
The highlight for me was the showcasing of Australia and Vietnam's collaboration on innovation across a wide range of industries. It was great to see how Australia's top scientists and Vietnam's leading researchers and industry partners work collaboratively to translate research into real-world commercial opportunities. Enhancing the production of high-value sea cucumbers through novel biotechnologies is one example which you saw during the series. Some additional examples to note from our Austra Innovation Program include the co-development of technological processes to improve the early diagnosis of breast cancer, which is one of the most common cancers in Vietnamese women, and also the co-creation of advanced water treatment systems to deliver safe water to thousands of households in the Red River Delta.
And next up we have Rebecca Ball, also from Austrade. Rebecca, you've been here as an expert. What were your thoughts?
Xin chào Phoebe và khán giả IFO, rất vui được gặp lại. I'm delighted to see how successful the season 7 of IFO show Shine with Australia has been. The rich content has been so well embraced by our young audience. From first learning about the exciting opportunity to work with the fabulous team at BTV7 on this IFO series, it's been a real joy to see how the idea has been turned into such an exciting and captivating series. It's amazing that the series has so far attracted around 30 million viewers already on all social media platforms, and this is growing 20% each week. It's truly rewarding to see so many young Vietnamese interested to learn about Australian study options. Today's show is the end of season 7, but certainly not the end of our efforts to provide advice and information about the study options with Australia. And the Australian Government is committed to caring for our international students and providing support with your journey in studying with Australia. It is an absolute pleasure to have been part of this program. Please stay tuned for more opportunities for studying with Australia. We look forward to keeping in contact with all of you. I'm now delighted to pass on to my colleague, Mr. Xavier Simonet, the CEO of Austrade, who will come and say a few words to you from our Austrade office in Canberra, in Australia. Come on.
Hello, I'm Xavier Simonet, the CEO of Austrade. Greetings from Canberra to IFO viewers, and great to see so many viewers tuned in to the series. I've been very impressed and proud to hear the stories of the huge efforts made by Australian education institutions and Vietnamese students to overcome the challenges of COVID. The whole series has such a positive vibe and has shown a great collection of inspirational stories from our top sectors experts and high-achieving Vietnamese students. I hope IFO viewers have been inspired by the diversity of Australia as a study destination, from our unique states and territories to our world-class institutions. International students are an important part of our diverse Australian society, and careful planning is underway to prepare for student returns and arrivals. We have continued to care for our Vietnamese students with us here in Australia, and we very much look forward to welcoming students from Vietnam back to Australia so that they can resume or commence their studies on campus. I encourage any interested student to visit the Study Australia website to explore the many options for starting an Australian education now closer to home, and to keep up to date on the latest news. All the best.
Thank you for your wonderful wishes. I'm particularly excited to see Vietnamese students return to Australia to kind of pick up where they left off. And it's an honor to be hearing from you all the way from Canberra. Thank you, Mr. Xavier, CEO of Austrade.
From DFAT, we have here in this final episode,
Brendan Brooker. Brendan, please share with us your thoughts.
I really enjoyed listening to people talk about their experiences studying in Australia. Over the decades, education has provided lots of opportunities for Australian and Vietnamese people to develop strong personal and professional connections. There's over 70,000 Australian alumni currently living in Vietnam, and I know that many of them are making great contributions to their communities, to their workplaces, and to Vietnam's development more broadly. I'd like to make a very special mention to Miss Ning from VCCI. I really enjoyed her segment talking about the terrific work that she's doing with both Australian and Vietnamese experts to develop some top quality vocational education and training in Vietnam's logistics sector.
Now we will reunite with one more special guest. I actually had the distinct honor of welcoming her into the IFO Nightly Show studio and hear her share with us her expertise about Australian education. So please welcome back Miss Jen Baton.
To me, the Shine with Australia series showcased two features of Australia's education system. Firstly, quality. The series showed us that no matter whether you study in Brisbane, Newcastle or Warrnambool, you will have access to the same high-quality education system thanks to our National Qualifications Framework and our countrywide quality standards. We also learned that the rights and interests of international students are protected in law. Secondly, diversity. You saw Australia's globally competitive schools sector, our high-quality foundation and English language programs, our contemporary and industry-relevant vocational and education training sector, and our world-class undergraduate and postgraduate higher education offerings.
Thank you, Jen, for your sharing. Another very special guest who will give us a few of her thoughts. Her Excellency, Madam Ambassador of the Australian Embassy to Vietnam, Robin Moody. Can you please share with us some of your thoughts?
So it was not so long ago that I had the opportunity to welcome the audience to the start of Season 7 of the IFO Nightly Show, in which we aim to bring to the audience a new, inspiring season, immersing viewers in themes of Australia, Shine with Australia. I hope the last 21 episodes have captivated the attention and curiosity of viewers and have inspired our young Vietnamese friends to learn more about our Australia, our people, and the diverse range of quality education which is available to you across so many levels. As you might recall, in the first episode I outlined the depth and breadth of the bilateral relationship between Australia and Vietnam, and it was amazing to see how the last 21 episodes vividly brought this to life through clear examples of our long-standing relationship which has spanned decades and which covers such a wide range of sectors including agriculture, technical innovation and healthcare. A particular highlight for me was the program about Oz for Skills with the industry linkage model in vocational education and training and logistics, as well as the innovation partnership of the Oz for Innovation program in aquaculture, which talked about the farming of white teatfish sea cucumbers in Phu Yên province. The viewers of the show may also have enjoyed, as I did, interesting facts about Australia's breakthrough inventions, such as Wi-Fi technology, black box flight recorders, HPV vaccines and the discovery of HP bacteria by Professor Barry Marshall. All of these have contributed to improving the quality of our daily lives. I would like to sincerely thank the viewers and the audience for their interest and their attention over the last 21 episodes, and also the special guest speakers who are highly regarded educators, industry experts and inspirational entrepreneurs from both Vietnam and Australia. Each and every one of you brought inspiration and insightful stories and advice. Special thanks also go to the Association of Vietnamese Students in Australia, Australian and Vietnamese education institutions for your continuous support to the realisation of the TV series, and of course our great presenters. Let's all continue to shine with Australia.
We started the season with Back with Love, and we've seen love being cherished, embraced, and shared, and helping us share the love is none other than the IFO Band. Now, of course, on this last episode, we're going to bring them back for one last hooray, one last performance. This is a song from the Broadway musical called Rent, and the song is Season of Love. It celebrates love and success, and this is not just a cover, this is a special rendition prepared by not only the IFO Band, but it also features performances and contributions from the IFO crew all over the world. So don't just listen to the song, feel the love in the song.
minutes, 525,000 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year?
In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in ages, in miles, in laughter, in strife. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure you in life?
How about love? 525,600 minutes. How do you measure life of a woman or a man?
In truths that she learned, or in times that she cried, in bridges he burned, or the way that she died.
It's time now to sing out, through the story never ends. Let's celebrate, remember a year in the life of friends. Remember the love. Remember the love. Remember the love. Measuring love. Seasons of love, seasons of love.
Ba, 2, 1, bắt đầu.
IFO Nightly Show.
525,600 minutes. How do you measure life of a woman or a man?
In truths that she learned, or in times that she cried, in bridges he burned, or the way that she died.
It's time now to sing out, through the story never ends. Let's celebrate, remember a year in the life of friends. Remember